With juicy, hazy IPAs dominating craft beer for years, it's easy to forget about a related style, Hazy Pale Ale. Actually, I never even heard of it. It's hop forward apparently, but not too hoppy. It's juicy, but not too juicy. I couldn't resist trying my hand at brewing one, making use of some new gear along the way. So how did this sessionable hazy turn out? Let's find out. This episode is sponsored by Clawhammer Supply. More on them in a bit. There is a wicked brewery in the hills of Asheville, North Carolina called Highland Brewing. They make a top-class amber ale called Gaelic Ale, and they have a commercial example of a hazy pale ale. That's called Trailbound. It's described as having notes of grapefruit, citrus, and melon, and it's my inspiration behind building my own recipes. So with my water salts added, which were mostly calcium chloride, and my grains milled, I smoothly went about beginning the mash. Oh, that could have been bad. In with the grains. Goodness. Now in the grain bill I'm using, and regular viewers, prepare yourself here because you're going to be shocked. I'm using Maris Otter. That's 75% of my grist. What of it? It adds some sweetness and some depth. I love it. Now, I'm using 17% of wheat malt. Wheat malt is high in protein, which contributes to the haze I'm looking for. And then finally, for that creamy body and smooth mouthfeel, I've got 8% flaked oats. And that brings in some beta-glucans to round things out. Now, not looking at a particularly high gravity beer here. So when it's in the sort of the 10-50 range, then I really just kind of go with a 40-minute mash, something like that. That should be plenty of time for conversion. 152 Fahrenheit, 67 Celsius. Now this will be a 3-gallon batch, and before starting my brew day, I did make some changes to my brew kettle. So gone is the bazooka screen, and I'm instead using a pickup tube, which should make it easier to get all the wort out of the kettle at the end of brew day. I'm also replacing my thermowell. Now in the past, I found that my temperature probe wasn't always fully inserted into the well because it got knocked or something, and that can result in inaccurate temperature readings. Now fortunately, Clawhammer Supply sent me a locking thermowell to replace it, so with a bit of thread tape applied and a good tightening with a wrench, I can now lock that probe in place and stop having to worry about accidentally displacing it. Now, once the mash was done, I brought the wort to a boil and went about adding my hops. Reached a boil, kind of add the first hop addition, which is Strata, 15 grams of that. Now, I'm only going to boil for 20 minutes here. Let's get these in. 20 minutes will be plenty enough time for pasteurization and to make sure that this really does get a good boil and sanitation. And it'll also be enough to get the amount of bittering that I need out of the strata, so might boil longer. Now, for me, the real magic of this beer comes from the hop additions at Whirlpool. And before I get to that, a quick word on today's sponsor. Come on, bring on the music. There we go. It's Clawhammer Supply. I've been brewing on the Clawhammer 10-gallon electric home brewing system for years. I put several hundred batches through this thing, and it's never let me down. These systems are easy to use, they're consistent, and they're super versatile as well. Clawhammer Supply also offer brewing accessories, including a counterflow wort chiller, a Whirlpool arm, and a keg fermenter, all of which are about to make an appearance in my brew day. And look, I don't need to say this, but I'm going to do it anyway. Clawhammer Supply have one of the best channels on all of YouTube. I never miss an episode. So check out all they have to offer at clawhammersupply.com. All right, let's get to the Whirlpool. All right, that's the end of the 20-minute boil. Off with the heat. Now I'm going to get almost all of the hop flavor and aroma in the Whirlpool and the dry hop. So it's Whirlpool time now. Now what I've done is I've hooked this up to my pump, which is pumping wort through my counterflow chiller, and that's pumping it back through this guy, which is my Whirlpool arm, and now we have a complete circuit of the wort moving around, and it's started to create quite a good whirlpool in here. So what I want to do is to chill this down to 170 Fahrenheit, and then I can add in my Whirlpool hops. All right, we're down to temperature. and got a cracking Whirlpool going in here. So now it's time to add in the hops. I'm bringing the temperature down a few degrees now. This means that we will really stop isomerization of the alpha acid. So we're not going to extract any bitterness, but we should still extract those hop oils that will contribute to flavor and aroma. So for the hops, I am using, well, they smell so good. I have got 30 grams of Citra in my 3-gallon batch and 30 grams of El Dorado. I'm just going to throw them in. And this is really where I'm getting the advantage of using a counterflow chiller here rather than a plate chiller, because it has really wide tubes, so I can be sure that it's not going to get clogged up with these hops. So that's the 20 minutes up, and now it's time to get the wort into my fermentation vessel. I'm using the claw hammer keg for this. This is kind of an ideal fermentation vessel because I want to dry hop, and it will allow me to dry hop in the keg because it contains a floating dip tube, so I can just throw my hops into this. Now I have also added a butterfly valve to the top here. I stole this off one of my other fermenters. The reasons for that will become apparent a little bit later. But this has been sanitized and it is now ready to receive the wort. I've been running the wort through my counterflow chiller with cold water, and this kettle now is at about 83 Fahrenheit. So let's get it into the keg. And I'm going to open up the valve just halfway, and that way it will flow through the counterflow chiller a little slower, which should help to chill it some more. But first I should open the butterfly valve. Oh man, let's try that again. That's going to be a sticky mess. I guess now is a good time to point out that the clawhammer keg comes with a lovely neoprene jacket. So I'm going to run through the washing machine. Alright, so the wort in here is a little warm still. So I'm just going to put this in my keezer for an hour or so, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to add my yeast. That yeast is Bavarian from Imperial Yeast. Really good choice for a Hazy IPA or a Hazy Pale Ale in this case. And I'm going to let that ride at around 68 Fahrenheit, roughly, or 20 Celsius. But it's just going to be at room temperature, sat here in my basement, so ambient room temperature. After fermentation was more or less complete, it was time to add my dry hop addition. Hazy IPAs are notoriously vulnerable to oxygen exposure, and I'm assuming the same is probably true of Hazy Pale Ales, so rather than cracking open the keg to throw in my hops, I elected to use a hop bong. I prepared 30 grams each of Citra and El Dorado, put them into my sanitized bong, connected that to the clawhammer keg, and purged with CO2. Then I used the butterfly valve to add the hops oxygen-free into the fermenter. 4 days after that, I transferred the keg into my keezer for cold crash and forced carbonation. Fits like a glove. So, how did this beer turn out?
It's a beautiful looking beer. Oh my God, look at the mousse on the head of that thing.
Yeah, it looks the part, doesn't it?
It is gorgeous.
This is about 3 weeks old, so it's still pretty young. And these are best fresh because the hop aromas, you really want them fresh.
Sure.
So that's why we'll get this out, serve it, get it going.
Yeah. That makes sense.
So I was wondering how much haze I'd get, and it's pretty hazy.
Oh yeah, completely opaque. You can't see through it at all. But I'm going to stick my nose right in there because I want to get a full whiff. Oh,
that's really, really fruity and pleasant.
Very fruity. A lot of citrus. I'm getting a little bit of lemon peel.
Yeah.
To me, it's everything I like in this style of beer.
Yeah, maybe a touch of tropical fruit as well. But yeah, just very pungent.
Yeah.
Very pungent.
Oh yeah, great aroma. Enough talking.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do this. Okay. Cheers.
Cheers.
That's outstanding, Martin. That's really, really good. Yeah, I'm getting I still have that lemon peel, but I'm picking up a lot of grapefruit.
That's what I'm getting too. Grapefruit on the
a lot of grapefruit, which I love in a tropical beer. I love the taste of grapefruit.
In terms of body, to me, it tastes quite light, like sessionable compared to a hazy IPA, which can sometimes have quite a thick mouthfeel. With this one, I feel like it's somewhat sessionable, and that's because it's not as high alcohol as a hazy IPA.
Oh, I agree. The mouthfeel on this is actually on the scale, it's tending toward the sort of crisp side.
Yeah.
and not as much mouthfeel as some other hazies that you get. Gosh, this is really good. I'm hoping I can take a growler home, maybe.
Absolutely.
Okay, that sounds great.
Yeah.
I would strongly support brewing this one again and letting me know when you do.
Okay.